When you think about intelligence, what tasks come into mind as ways of demonstrating how smart you are? Some people may show their intelligence by being able to speak multiple languages or being able to solve tough math problems, while other people may showcase their intelligence by being able to make quick decisions on a sports field or being able to navigate through a new city. Which person would be smarter in your opinion? Going by its dictionary definition, intelligence is the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. While this gives us an outline of the concept of intelligence, it is still very hard to find a universal measure for intelligence. However, there have been tests that have been developed to test and measure an individual's level of intelligence and put it into a numerical scale. They are called IQ tests. IQ, which is an acronym for Intelligence Quotient, is a measure of your intelligence expressed as a number. Generally, the average IQ score is from 85 to 114, anything above that being a genius, and anything less being intellectually challenged according to the scale. But how is that number calculated? It is done by obtaining a mental age from doing an IQ test and dividing it by your chronicle age or actual age, and then multiplying that by 100. The number you get from those calculations is your IQ score as a percentage. For example, if you have a mental age of 25 and your chronicle age is also 25, you receive an IQ score of 100 after doing the calculations, which is the average. This is the reason why the average is 100, as it shows that you are at your mental age, and anything above that will be more intelligent and vice versa. The most popular IQ test, the Stanford Binet Intelligence Test, measures 5 factors of cognitive ability: fluid reasoning, knowledge, quantitative reasoning, visual spatial processing, and working memory. Originally developed to help place children in appropriate educational settings, descending from the more gifted children, from those who with a learning disability or developmental delay, it is now the most common IQ test used around the world. However, even being the world's most used and reliable test of intelligence, it only still tests the ability to answer specific questions. For example, a person from a tribal village in Africa would not fare very well doing the IQ test, but that would not mean that they are intellectually deficient. The skills that they use from a day-to-day basis would be very different to what we would conventionally consider to be intelligent. That has caused many theories to arise, suggesting that intelligence cannot be categorized into a single measure, but rather that there are various types of intelligences.
Fluid versus crystallized intelligence. All the way back in 1963, a psychologist named Raymond Cattell noticed that there are two distinct forms of intelligence that he wanted to identify and study. The first type is what he called fluid intelligence. Fluid intelligence is defined as the ability to solve new problems, use logic in new situations, and identify patterns. Using a complicated subway system in a new city is a good example of how you might need to use fluid intelligence. One way you can think of fluid intelligence is that you'll use it slightly different each time you're in a new situation, so it's flexible and adaptive. In contrast, Cattell also named the second, different type of intelligence that he called crystallized intelligence. Crystallized intelligence is defined as the ability to use learned knowledge and experience. When you're taking a class at school, you use crystallized intelligence all the time. When you're learning a new language, you memorize the new vocab and increase your vocab over time. You also learn the theory behind solving algebraic equations, or how to do long division, or the general rules of grammar when using sentences. Therefore, you're using crystallized intelligence. When you're learning a new task, you probably need to start with fluid intelligence, but once the task is learned, you can probably rely on crystallized intelligence. For example, if you grew up learning English as your first language, you might have trouble learning a language with different grammatical patterns or concepts, like nouns in Spanish being masculine or feminine. Making these adaptations will require your brain to be a little flexible as you think about new ideas.
Another theory of intelligence is Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. This theory suggests that intelligence is not a single general ability, but is split into 7 distinct intelligences. These are visual spatial, body kinesthetic, musical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, linguistic, and logical mathematical skills. Each individual will have a strength in each of those intelligences, which will influence how they will go about solving problems, completing tasks, and learning. Gardner believed that each individual will have each of the multiple intelligences, but will be able to single out one strong intelligence, an area where the person has considerable computational power. For example, a person's ability to win at a game involving spatial thinking signals strong spatial intelligences, or being able to pick up a foreign language very quickly signals strong linguistic intelligence. So now that we've covered several theories of intelligence, there is another question to be answered. How does one gain their intelligence? Well, there have been many theories that have been brought up over the years, but we will be covering one aspect, whether intelligence is inherited.
Is intelligence inherited? It is generally accepted that intelligence is inherited, but can also be related to the environment. While studies show that heredity is an important factor in determining intelligence, it was also suggested that the environment is a critical factor in determining the extent of its expression. An investigation done recently revealed that 70% of the differences in the twins' IQ scores were attributed to inherited traits. Studies show that the grey matter volume is strongly determined by genes and reflected cognitive performance. It was also suggested that there is strong genetic influence on IQ, verbal, and spatial abilities. So in short, our genes determine the quality of our intelligence, ability to integrate and process information. Furthermore, many different environmental influences have also been found to shape intelligence. These influences generally fall into two main categories: biological and social-cultural. Biological influences act on the physical body, while social-cultural influences shape the mind and behavior of an individual. Bias testing for intelligence. It is extremely difficult to develop a test that measures innate intelligence without introducing cultural bias. This has been virtually impossible to achieve. One attempt was to eliminate language and design tests with demonstrations and pictures. Another approach is to realize that culture-free tests are not possible and to design cultural fair tests instead. These tests draw on experiences found in many cultures.
So going back to the point on measuring intelligence, apart from the Stanford Binet and various other well-known IQ tests, there are many IQ tests online that claim to be able to measure your intelligence. However, they are extremely unreliable and do not calculate your IQ correctly. These criticisms, however, are also made of the more reliable IQ tests. Some argue that the environmental factors, such as quality of education and school systems, can cause discrepancies in test scores and that are not based on intelligence. Others argue that an individual's test-taking skills are being evaluated rather than their intelligence. Therefore, small online IQ tests like the one in the video should not be trusted to find your true IQ score. After hearing us discuss some different theories behind intelligence and the methods used to calculate the IQ score, you now must be wondering, what exactly is intelligence? Well, that question may never be answered. Intelligence is entirely subjective on the society we live in. Skills that might be valuable in one society or time period may change, so the concept of intelligence is forever changing. So I hope we've all learnt a bit about intelligence, and thanks for watching.